Right now, we're halfway through the college football season, and 8 FBS coaches already been fired. Some of those guys were winning not that long ago, a bowl game, a solid season, beating their rival. But in today's game, average doesn't buy you time anymore. One bad stretch, and people want a new face, they want a new system, a new savior. And I get it. I mean, that's what they have to do in college athletics now, knowing that you are literally paying players now. Like you aren't just paying to, kind of invest into a stadium or making sure they have the right resources, on the day to day, a snack bar, the millions of things that, student athletes need. You are literally like saying like, hey, I need $1 million to keep my receiver. I need $1 million to keep my quarterback. And now that makes donors feel like they have even a bigger of a say in the day to day. But what we're seeing now is there's no reward for taking your time to build up properly. It's like you have to have success right away and you don't have time to set a culture. You have to dive in right away. And when a team falters a little bit, it's like, bam, you're done. That's it. It's over. And so you think about that, and we're seeing the extreme of it now in college football, where there's 8 FBS coaches fired halfway through the season. But that's the mindset that athletes have had their entire career. It's like if you weren't performing, you were replaceable. If you had a couple off games, you could get benched. If you had a bad season, you may get cut from the team or asked to transfer. Average meant you weren't good enough. And that doesn't necessarily mean like you're either not a good athlete or you are. Like you can be an amazing athlete, but you are at a top tier program. Average there is not going to cut her. You could be a really good athlete at a kind of middle program. And if you are not doing something that's above and beyond, like that may not be good enough. And so this mentality of like you have to have constant success and a failure is actually a failure versus something we learn and grow from is ingrained into us. And so we wonder why we get outside of that world of athletics and all of a sudden it's really difficult. That mentality follows you long after you stop playing. It's why so many ex-college athletes can't stay consistent after they graduate. You can either go all in, crushing workouts and eating perfect, or you fall off completely because it doesn't feel like you were performing anymore. But in the real world, average is the skill you never learn. And that's what's actually rewarded now because it actually creates consistency versus all of these sacrifices. So today, I want to break this down. What does this being average really mean? Why is it so hard for ex college athletes to accept average as something that's a good thing now? And how do you build the kind of consistency that actually lasts once the scoreboard's gone? Now, as an athlete, you were built for peaks. You trained for months just to perform on game day. Everything you did had a scoreboard attached to it. You were either competing with teammates during practice or you were trying to just do the best you can in your coach's eyes, in your team's eyes, in your fans' eyes, and you always had them watching. So again, like no matter what setting you were in, a coach, a team, a crowd, everyone was there. And so that pressure kept you consistent because it wasn't really up to you. Now, here's an example. So think back to a normal college week. You'd have lift at 6 a.m., class, film, a conditioning session afterwards. You didn't need motivation. The schedule decided for you. If you didn't show up, someone noticed. Fast forward to now, there's no coach, there's no season, there's no accountability. Suddenly, consistency is your responsibility now, and that's new. We've had a coach since we were 5 years old, so our brain defaults to what it knows, all in or all out. You go hard for a few weeks, and the moment something breaks the routine, you drop it completely because, again, we were set in an environment where you have to be consistently excellent every single day. So that's the old standard at work. You still think if you're not performing at 100%, it doesn't count. But the truth is, that perfection mindset is what's killing your consistency. When you were an athlete, being an average person or an average athlete got you benched. Now, being average is how you stay healthy, fit, and confident for the rest of your life. The people who actually rebuild their health after sport aren't the ones who go the hardest and train CrossFit or do marathons or do triathlons, start training for Ironman. But even on the bad days, they never really fall below 80% because they know that 80% is going to have them healthier than 99% of the people in the world and allow them to maintain that level of confidence that they had during their athlete days. Because even on their bad days, they show up in some way. So if that's the problem, that perfection standard we grew up with, then what does being average actually look like now? Now, here's the thing. Average doesn't mean lazy. It means repeatable. Think about your old training calendar, off-season grind, preseason, you're building and you're kind of getting your butt kicked. In season, we're trying to maintain. Postseason crash where you need 2 weeks just to be able to like recover and actually be able to be ready for another season. You were built to hit cycles, not sustain an output long term. And that worked then. Like that works for competitive excellence, works for our bodies to heal, works for us to be able to taper and peak and be where we really truly need to be. at that moment. But now those peaks leave you exhausted and starting over and continually frustrated because you could go 6 weeks having perfect workouts, perfect meals, and then 1 week of burnout and you're just like wiped out and you have to start completely over. The reality is you don't need to train like you're preparing for a championship anymore. You need to train like you're building a lifestyle you can keep. Being average means you stop chasing your best day and start protecting your baseline. Instead of a 90-minute gym session, maybe it's 30-minute lifts 3 to 4 times a week. Instead of it's cutting every carb, maybe it's making just one better food choice we normally make during our regular, more consistent meals that allows us to be healthy over the long term. Because consistency doesn't come from doing more, it comes from doing less more often. Meaning, we're actually going to be doing the right stuff, but we're going to be doing a little bit less of it, something that we can maintain forever. That's what being average really means. It's finding the version of the work that's simple enough to repeat, even when life's not perfect. If your sport was about hitting home runs, this phase of life is about hitting bunts. You don't win by swinging for the fences. You win by getting on base every single day. So now that you understand the mindset shift, let's talk about the actual process. How do you build consistency when the excitement fades and no one's watching? The most important thing is stop setting goals based on your best day. Ask instead, what can I do on my worst day? If that means a 20-minute walk, cool. If it means one decent meal instead of three bad ones, that counts. The smallest version that you can repeat daily will always beat the big version that you abandon. So if you in your mind are painting this picture like I have to be ready to take on this full training schedule. I got to be able to wake up at 5 a.m. I got to get off work and do another training session. I have to spend Sundays meal prepping. That's never going to work. It's never going to last. You may see the person that's going to comment or say something and be like, oh, like, yeah, I could do this forever. That's the mindset of a bodybuilder or whatever. Like, if you're a bodybuilder, you don't have balance. Like, we don't need to get into that, but that's a whole nother point. Anyways, the point is you want something that you can do for the next 20, 30 years because it has to work through every phase of life. If you think about when you first graduate, you lose all the responsibilities that you did have, but all of a sudden you shift to like, okay, I have to take care of myself. I have to cook. I have to go to work. I have to do all of these things on my day to day, but I don't have a family yet. Like maybe I'm still single and I have all this time in my hands where I get off work and I can, I can go run 10 miles if I want to. I can train for a marathon. I can do CrossFit. I can do all these things that take up 6 to 10 hours of my week and feel like I'm living full in that world. But the second you transition to the next phase, like, okay, I'm engaged, like someone that wants to spend time with me a few days a week, or then you get married and it's like, okay, like I don't really want to be gone every Saturday morning doing a 3 hour training session or, going to the CrossFit gym and spending forever there because like I just want to be at home and I want to spend time like laying with my wife watching TV or doing all the things that you can actually do to live a normal life. And those are all good things to be able to actually do. But that wouldn't have like that phase of what you wanted to do when you first graduated doesn't work now. Now you factor in kids in the equation. You factor in a job that makes you travel. You factor in crazy work hours on top of kids not sleeping, like all these things. And if you plan for the day that everyone slept well and you think that's what you're going to maintain forever, you're not. And so we have to set up in a way that like something that we're actually going to be able to maintain, regardless of how exhausted we are, regardless of how little sleep we've gotten, or regardless of whatever around us could be holding us back. And so if that's our expectation, there are times where we may do more and we may go above and beyond, but at least we're meeting that minimum standard every single day and holding yourselves consistent to that. And you do that for long enough, you will 100% be happy with the result. So make sure you actually like are stacking your habits in a way that can benefit you and not thinking about it as like, I have to do all of these things, make these checklists. Like it's gotta be things that like little shifts that save you time. For example, for me, I know I have to work out before my wife and baby are up. Like it's the only way I'm going to fit in a workout. Well, I wake up in the morning, but I also don't want to wake up at 4 a.m., be able to like have time to go to the bathroom and have time to make coffee and have a snack and then get back and do all these things. Like, okay, I'm going to make it really simple. Like I used to make a cappuccino every morning, like I have right here, but I'm not actually going to like, that takes me, getting the milk out and steaming the milk and like getting a glass out. Then I wash the glass so I don't leave dishes in the sink. Like all these things add up. It's like, okay, I wasted 20 minutes. Instead, I'm going to make an Americano. I'm going to throw it in a cup, pour in a little bit of milk because I do like something a little bit sweeter, creamer in there or whatever. And I'm going to drink it on the way to the gym. Or if I have to that day, like I decide to sleep an extra 30 minutes, I'm going to work out in our garage. But I'm always going to do something because I have to be able to actually be consistent. Now it's build a routine where I wake up every single day and I'm going to do some form of exercise. And some days it's not what you would view as enough. Some days I get to the gym, like I am wiped and like I have 9 exercises I'm going to hit. I'm going to do 4 of them and I'm going to go walk and like I'm stressed about work. So I'm going to answer a couple like Slack messages real quick, or I'm going to do some things that allow to simplify my day versus stacking things on top that are going to make everything more difficult. And so we always try and think about like we need to remove as many barriers as possible and simplify things versus adding a million expectations on every single person that they have to achieve every single day. That's never going to happen. And the second you go off track, like you've lost it, you feel like you're a complete failure. So you don't need to be perfect for 30 days. You just need to win more days than you lose, which means being consistent over a month, 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years. And that's how you look back when you're 60 and like, wow, I feel really good. I'm able to crawl on my grandkids. I feel like I'm able to actually live my life and still feel confident. And if you're 60 and you've done that stuff for 30 years, chances are you are just as confident as you were when you were 20 because you've maintained that stuff all along. So I definitely encourage you, like, think about something that you can do forever versus a thing you can only do for a short period of time. And reward yourself for reward yourself for that. Recognize that every single day. Like when I do that short workout and I don't look at, oh, I did 45 minutes today, I did 20 minutes yesterday. I go, I did 2 workouts and my goal is 4 and it's Tuesday and I'm, 50% of the way there versus me thinking like I have to hit an expectation every single day. Like for me, it's a checkbox. Like I did it or I didn't do it versus me being like, well, that was a good workout. It doesn't really count because it wasn't quite as what I'm capable of doing. We're never going to be able to have time for that. We're never going to have time for the 2-hour workout twice a day for the rest of our life. Like that's just not realistic. But if the standard is what is actually realistic now, sure, there are days we will go above and beyond, but because we met that standard, rewarding ourselves for success and building confidence that we can actually maintain this long term. And our brain is no longer recognizing failure as something that like we're consistently running into, but our brain is rewarding ourselves to recognize that we can like consistently maintain this. Like, wow, we're going to be more confident and enjoy the process so much more because we're not constantly failing. We're actually making progress every single day. Now, next thing, not just tracking those wins, but reflecting on it. Get to the end of the week and say, like, recognize kind of where you're at. So look back, like, what helped, what hurt, what do you adjust? If you look back in the week, your goal was 3 workouts. You did 3 workouts. Great. Doesn't matter how long they were or how short they were, just the fact that you completed them. And then you look back and say, like, man, these were the barriers. These are the things I really struggled with throughout the week. How do I make this easier on myself and then find ways to make it easier? Sometimes it's stuff little like making a easier coffee or making sure you have a gym bag packed. Whatever those things are, make sure you're actually thinking of those things and not just running into a wall with things that stress you out every single day when they can actually be changed. And I don't think people spend enough time looking at what they do throughout the day and saying, okay, why am I actually doing this? Why am I wasting time doing this? A good example of this, like my wife irons clothes. I'm like, work, like you have a job, you have all these other expectations. Like you shouldn't spend 4 hours a week ironing. You shouldn't. And so we'll probably end up paying someone to iron our clothes. Like that's fine. Or we're taking the dry cleaners. I don't care. Like whatever actually takes that off our plate. Those little things that take up some of our day, like those things actually impact us. And so it doesn't necessarily always mean like paying for another thing, but finding ways to actually simplify and make things easier. And here's the cool part. When you practice going through this and actually like recognizing yourself for those wins, not judging it whether or not the workout's up to standard what you did in the past, you start building something stronger than motivation. You start building an identity that this is a part of who you are and what you're able to accomplish forever. We're rebuilding that athlete identity that we've had, but in a world that allows us to actually be successful doing that now because we stopped chasing the high of being on like the absolute crushing it every single day. And we're starting to trust ourselves that we can show up regardless of what it looks like. And then we're actually able to consistently move in the right direction. In sport, being average was your biggest fear. But in life, it's your biggest advantage because the person who learns to show up when it's boring, when it's not Instagram worthy, when it doesn't feel perfect, that's the person who actually wins long after the season ends. And we all know that there is no season of life. It's just continuously this one long marathons continuously throw challenges at us and make us learn something new every single day. And if we're able to be consistent through that, we will be happy with where we're at. And so our next championship isn't a ring. It's the version of you who doesn't need hype or structure or a coach yelling at you, just discipline built through being average. If this hits you, share with a former teammate or someone who's been stuck in that all or nothing cycle, because the more of us who learn the skill of being average, the more of us will actually start winning again as ex-college athletes.